Wow. Okay. And make sure we are online with Facebook and YouTube. Yes, we are live and alive. Okay, so good to see everybody. And I am traveling a little bit today. I'll be back at Nucaloka tomorrow, and we're in Charlotte, North Carolina. So tonight's program or tonight's class will have to be a little shorter because I have a program here at 6 o'clock, which is whatever time it is, wherever all of you are at. So first we're going to chant prayers to the Lord Nishingadev. I don't have my guitar with me right now, so we're going to chant without a guitar. Is that possible? I don't know. Anyway, and then we'll continue with our study of the Sri Caitanya Charitamrta. Of course, we're chanting the prayers to Lord Nishingadev because we're praying for all those devotees who are devotees and people in general who are suffering due to the inhumane treatment of people by other people. And inhumane treatment, I don't know how someone could voluntarily cause pain to another living entity and live with themselves. I mean, it's hard for me to understand this. Very hard. Actually, Maslow explains this quite nicely, at least theoretically. Maslow says that when we find people who he would consider to be psychopaths. A psychopath, for those of you who don't know, is someone who doesn't have any empathy. So he said when we find people who don't have any empathy, and many times those people are leaders of countries or leaders of political parties or prominent people in society or businessmen, is that that's due to them not having their emotional needs taken care of when they were young, when they were little children. So it is very important for all of you who have little children and who are little children to have your emotional needs taken care of. And in this way you'll grow up as compassionate living entities, compassionate human beings. Because without compassion there's no humanity. One is simply a monster. Of course, I know I'm not supposed to label people as monsters, but one acts like a monster. So it's very important that children be brought up with loving parents who stay together. And I'm saying this as a sannyasi. And the only reason I may have a modicum of compassion is because I had such a nice mother. Very, very nice, compassionate mother who was always doting, maybe too much doting, but still that's very important. So anyway, so let's chant the prayers with that brief introduction. Let's chant the prayers to Lord Nrsingadev for the protection of all humanity and for the development of compassion in everyone's heart, and the development of humanity in everyone's heart. Okay, let's go. Namaste Narasimhaya Puladalada Jayode Hiranyakashi Puravakshaha Shilatam Kanakalaye Itona Singha Paratona Singho Yato Yamitato the Singha Vahirna Singho Hridayana Singho the Singhamadim Shadanam Prapajoy Tavakara Kamala Parena Kaham Adbhuta Singha Hom Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringa Hom Kesavatrita Narari Rupa Jaya Jagati Shahade Jaya Jagadesha Hare Jaya Jagadesha Hare Tavakar Kamala Pare Nakagom Adbhuta Singha Hom Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringa Hom Kesavatrita Narari Rupa Jaya Jakati Shahade Jaya Jakati Shahade Jaya Jagati Shahade Tavakar Kamala Pare Nakam Adbhuta Singha Hom Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringa Hom Kesavadrita Nadari Rupa Jaya Jagati Jagate Jaya Jagadesha Hare Jaya Jagadesha Hare Jaya Nasringadev 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 Jaya Nasringadev Jaya Nasringadev Jaya Nasringadev Jaya Nasringadev Jaya Nasringadev Jaya Palad Maharaj Jaya Palad Maharaj Jaya Palad Maharaj Jaya Palad Maharaj Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravidakacharya also Teda Satishi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Chaitanya Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Friend Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Parense Go Shri Krishna Chaitanya Paravanichananda Shadvaita Gadadha Shivasali Gaur Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopikapanath Shaim Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Maturanam Ki Jai Jagadasami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Srimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Go. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namadi Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nivashesha Shanyavadi Paschacha Deja Tarane. So, Om Ganat Midanda Shah Gadanjana Shalakaya Chakshur Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. Okay, so let's get on to the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. We are reading from the first chapter of the Antya Lila. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. So starting with the 178th text. Of course, basically what we're hearing in this part of the Caitanya Charitamrita is the questions that are being raised by Ramananda Roy and Swarup Damodar Goswami to Srila Rupa Goswami regarding his writings, particularly the Vidagdhamadava and the Litamadava. Vidagdhamadava deals with Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, and Litamadava deals with Krishna's pastimes out of Vrindavan, that is, Dwarka and Mathura. And the interesting thing is, the Litamadava, even though it deals with Krishna's pastimes out of Vrindavan, those pastimes out of Vrindavan reflect upon the relationships. We mentioned this in Bhagavatam class this morning. They reflect upon the relationships which the different Brajavasis have, the loving relationships which they have. So I recommend that people listen to both of these plays by Rupa Goswami. If you want to listen to both these plays by Srila Rupa Goswami, go on ISKCONDesiretree.com. Go to my name, and if you haven't figured out what my name is, it's Pure Krishna Goswami. You go to audios in that particular regard, and audiobooks. Okay, let's continue. Shunya prabodayati antarevi ulasa bahire kahina kichu kare osam asa. Although Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was inwardly very greatly pleased when he heard this verse, externally he spoke as if angry. In other words, one of the verses in the Vidagdhamadava and the Litamadava, several of the verses actually, is written in glorification of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not like to hear his own glorification because he's acting as a humble devotee. Kanha damar Krishna rasa kavya sura sindhu taramajye matyakene stutik shara bindu. Your exalted poetic descriptions of the mellows of Lord Krishna's pastimes are like an ocean of nectar. But why have you put in a false prayer about me? It is like a drop of detestable alkali. Because Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is acting as a devotee, and he doesn't want it known or so prominent. Or so prominent that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He wants to keep his mood as a devotee. Rayakai Rupera Kavya Amritera Pura Tadamadje Kabindu Tiachi Karpura. Srila Ramananda Roy objected, it is not alkali at all, it is the particle of camphor he has put into the nectar of his exalted poetic expression. Rabukai Raya Tamare Hati Ulasa Shunite Lajag Loke Kare Upahasa. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, my dear Ramananda Roy, you are jubilant at hearing these poetic expressions, but I'm ashamed to hear them, for people in general will joke about the subject of this verse, which is Lord Chaitanya. So, text 182. Someone put in the chat window how to find the audiobooks that I have narrated. Okay. It's right there. If you want a copy from the chat window. Rayakai lokera sukha ihara shavane avishta devera smriti mangalacharane. Ramananda Roy said, Instead of joking, people in general will feel great pleasure in hearing such poetry, for the initial remembrance of the worshipable deity invokes good fortune. So Lord Chaitanya is the worshipable deity of Srila Rupa Goswami. Raikai konange patrera pravesha tabe Rupa Goswami kai tahara vishesha. Ramananda Roy inquired, by which subdivision of style do the players enter? Rupa Goswami then began to speak specifically about this subject. Nataka kirata grajam nihachurangastale kala nidina samaye tena videyam gunavati tarakara grahanam. While dancing on the stage after having killed the ruler of uncivilized men, Kamsa, so Kamsa is the ruler of uncivilized men, Lord Krishna, master of all arts, will at the proper time accept the hand of Srimati Radharani, who is qualified with all transcendental attributes. So this is like one of the introductory verses of the Lita Madhava 1:11. Udgat Yaka Nama Eyamuka Vityanga. Oops. This camera's in big trouble anyway. Hold on a second. Anyway, it's all right. Ugata nama he amuka vityanga tomara gekahihia datrischera taranga. All right. This introduction is technically called Udgot Yaka, and the whole scene is called Viti. You are so expert in dramatic expression that each of my statements before you is like a wave from an ocean of impudence. In this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur again quotes the following verse from the Sahitya Darpana 6:288. Udgatyaga kathodgata pragodgati shayastata pravarta kavalagite pancha prastavanabhidaha. Thus, the technical names of the 5 kinds of introductory scenes of the drama are listed as Udghatyaka, Kathodgata, Pragogatishaya, Pravartaka, and Avalagita. When Srila Ramananda Roy inquired which of these 5 Srila Rupa Goswami had used to accomplish the technical introduction to his drama Lita Madhava, Rupa Goswami replied that he'd used the introduction technically called Udghatyaka. According to the Bharati Vritti, 3 technical terms used are Parochana, Viti, and Prahasana. Thus, Rupa Goswami also mentioned Viti, which is a technical term for a certain type of expression according to the Sahitya Darpana 6:520. Vityame kovavet anka kaschideko takalpyate akasha bhashitarutais chitram prayuktim ashitaha. The Viti beginning of a drama consists of only one scene. In that scene, one of the heroes enters the stage, and by means of opposing statements uttered by a voice from the sky off stage, he introduces the abundant conjugal mellow and other mellows to some degree. In the course of the introduction, all the seeds of the play are planted. This introduction is called Udghatyaka because the player dances on the stage. This term also indicates that the full moon enters the stage. In this case, when the word natata, dancing on the stage, is linked with the moon, its meaning is obscure, but because the meaning becomes very clear when this word natata is linked with Krishna, this type of introduction is called Udghatyaka, very technical. Srila Ramananda Roy used highly technical terms when he discussed the subject with Srila Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami stated that Srila Ramananda Roy was a greatly learned scholar of bona fide dramatic composition. Thus, although Srila Rupa Goswami is quite fit to answer Srila Ramananda Roy's questions, due to his Vaishnava humility, he said that his words were impudent. Actually, both Rupa Goswami and Ramananda Roy were scholarly experts in composing poetry and presenting it strictly according to the Sahitya Darpana and other Vedic literatures. So educated, we can be so proud of our predecessor acharyas. I mean, If anyone says that bhakti yoga is for less intelligent people, they are wrong. Our acharyas are the most intelligent. I was just actually listening as I was driving today to a memory that one devotee had of Srila Prabhupada, and this devotee said that Prabhupada was the most intelligent person he has ever met in his life, and how Prabhupada was so attentive to each and every detail. Padani twagatartani tadartha gataye naraha yoshiyanti padaranyai saudgayaka uchate. To explain an unclear word, men generally join it with other words. Such an attempt is called udgayaka. This verse quoted from the Sahit Shadarpana 6:289. Rayakae kagayangera vishesha shirupakena kichu sangshepa udesha. When Ramananda Roy requested Srila Rupa Goswami to speak further about various portions of the play, Srila Rupa Goswami briefly quoted his Lalita Madhava. And here's a quote. Harim udishyate rajobara purata sangha mayat jamum tamaha rajabama drusham napadati rakata sarvadrisha shuterapi. The dust from the cows is real nectar. The dust from the cows and calves on the road creates a kind of darkness indicating that Krishna is returning home from the pasture. Also, the darkness of the evening provokes the gopis to meet Krishna. Thus, the pastimes of Krishna and the gopis are covered by a kind of transcendental darkness and are therefore impossible for ordinary scholars of the Vedas to see. What a wonderful metaphor. In other words, the most intimate pastimes of Krishna occur during the evening. That's one point. And also during the evening, Krishna's coming back from the pasturing grounds. And also that Krishna's pastimes are covered by Krishna's Yogamaya, Naham Prakasha Sarvasha Yogamaya Samavrata, so that rascals cannot understand them. This verse from the Lalita Madhava 123 is spoken by Purnamasi in a conversation with Gargi. Krishna states in the Bhagavad Gita 2:45, Trigunya Vishya Veda Nish Trigunyo Bhavarjuna. Thus he advised what this means is the Vedas are mainly dealing with the modes of nature. Therefore, Arjuna, you should rise above the modes of nature and be transcendental. Thus he advised Arjuna to rise above the modes of material nature, for the entire Vedic system is filled with descriptions involving Sattva gun, Rajagun, and Tamagun. So these are the three modes of nature. And if we want to be transcendental, we got to be transcendental to those three modes of nature. People are generally covered by the quality of Rajagun, passion, and are therefore unable to understand the pastimes of Krishna with the gopis of Braja. Moreover, the quality of Tamagun further disturbs their understanding. In Vrindavan, however, although Krishna is covered by the hazy darkness of the dust, the gopis can nevertheless understand that within the dust storm is Krishna. Because they are his topmost devotees, they can perceive his hand in everything. Thus, even in the dark or in the hazy storm of dust, devotees can understand what Krishna is doing. The purport of this verse is that under no circumstances is Krishna ever lost to the vision of exalted devotees, like the gopis. And also, under all circumstances, Krishna is lost to the vision of people who are just mundane scholars, even scholars of the Vedas. Riyam avagriya grahebhya karshati radam vanaya yam nipuna sajayati nishvishtarta varavam shaja kakali duti. May the sweet sound of Lord Krishna's flute, his authorized messenger, be glorified, for it expertly releases Srimati Radharani from her shyness and attracts her from her home to the forest. This is a verse spoken from the Lalita Madhava. 124 is spoken by Gargi, the daughter of Garga Muni. Wow. Sahachari niranta niratanka koyam yuva mutirad yutir vrachabhuvi kuta prapto majjan matangaja vibramaha, aha chatular utsarpad birdring anjala taskarair, mamadriti danam chetakashad, aviluntayatiha yaha. My dear friend, who is this fearless young man? He is as bright as a lightning cloud, and he wanders in his pastimes like a maddened elephant. From where has he come to Vrindavan? Alas, by his restless movements and attractive glances, he is plundering from the vault of my heart the treasure of my patience. Sounds like Radharani. And Prabhupada corroborates that. This verse, Lita Madhava 2:11, is spoken by Srimati Radharani to her friend Lalita Devi. Viharasura dirghika mamamana karindrashaya vilochana chakorayo sharadam manda chandraprabha urombara tatasya chavarana charutaravali mayonata manoratayar yamalambi saradhika. Srimati Radharani is the Ganges in which the elephant, this is Krishna obviously, in which the elephant of my mind enjoys pastimes. She is the shining of the full autumn moon for the chakora birds of my eyes. She is the dazzling ornament, the bright and beautiful arrangement of stars on the border of the sky of my chest. Now today I've gained Srimati Radharani because of the highly elevated state of my mind. That's Krishna. This verse from the Lita Madhava 2:10 expresses the thoughts of Lord Krishna in relationship with Radharani. Eta Shunirai Kai Prabhura Chanane Rupera Kavita Prashamsi Sahasravadane. After hearing this, Srila Ramananda Roy submitted at the lotus feet of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu the super excellence of Srila Rupa Goswami's poetic expression and began to praise it as if he had thousands of mouths. So this is the non-enviousness of a devotee. Kavitva nahaya he amritera dara nataka lakshana sava siddhantera sara. Srila Ramananda Roy said, this is not a poetic presentation. It is a continuous shower of nectar. Indeed, it is the essence of all ultimate realizations appearing in the form of plays. Prema Padipadiye Adbhuta Varnana Shunichitakarnera Haya Ananda Gurnana. The wonderful descriptions by Rupa Goswami are superb arrangements to express loving affairs. Hearing them will plunge the heart and ears of everyone into a whirlpool of transcendental bliss. Kim Kavina Kavastasya Kim Kadena Tanushvataha Parasharadiyai Lagnam Nagurnayati Achiraha. What is the use of a bowman's arrow or a poet's poetry if they penetrate the heart but do not cause the head to spin? Wow. Tamara Shakti Bina Jivera Nahi Evane Tumi Shakti Dia Kao Hena Anumane. Without your mercy, such poetic expressions would be impossible for an ordinary living being to write. My guess is that you have given him the power. Prabhukahe Prayage Hara Haila Milana Ihara Gune Ihate Amara Tushtaila Mana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, I met Srila Rupa Goswami at Prayag. He attracted and satisfied me because of his qualities. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not partial to some and neutral to others. One can actually draw the intention of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by service. Then the Lord further empowers that person to act in such a way that everyone can appreciate one's service. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 4:11, Ye tamam prabhajante tam stathaiva bhajamyaham. Krishna is responsive. If one tries to render his best service to the Lord gives him the power to do so. Krishna also says in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 10th chapter, text 10, very important verse, Tesham satadhyuktanam bhajatam pratipurvakam dadami buddhiyogam tam yedamam upayantite. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bestowed his special favor upon Srila Rupa Goswami because Rupa Goswami wanted to serve the Lord to the best of his ability. Such is the reciprocation between the devotee and the Lord in the discharge of devotional duties. And of course, it is stated, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, a dog can swim in the ocean, a blind man can see, and so many things can happen by mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Or a lame man can walk. So, Madhura Prasanayara Kavya Shankara Aiti Kavitva Vinunahe Vasera Prachara. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu praised the metaphors and other literary ornaments of Srila Rupa Goswami's transcendental poetry. Without such poetic attributes, he said, there is no possibility of preaching transcendental mellows. Sabi Kripakari in Hari Deyai Vara Rajalila Prema Rasa Yena Varne Nirantara. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu requested all of his personal associates to bless Rupa Goswami so that he might continuously describe the pastimes of Vrindavan, which are full of emotional love of Godhead. In Haraye Jeshta Bharata Namasanatana Prativite Vigye Varanahi Tanra Sama. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Srila Rupa Goswami's elder brother, whose name is Sanatana Goswami, is such a wise and learned scholar that no one is equal to him. Tumarayache Vishayatyaga Tache Tanravriti Dainya Vairagya Pandichera Tanhate Stiti. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Ramananda Roy Sanatana Goswami's renunciation of material connections is just like yours. Humility, renunciation, and excellent learning exist in him simultaneously. Edvi Vayhayami Patailun Brindavane Shakti Dea Bhakti Shastra Karite Pravartane. I empowered both of these brothers to go to Vrindavan and to expand the literature of Bhakti. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu informed Srila Ramananda Roy that he and Sanatana Goswami had engaged equally in devotional service after giving up all relationships with material activity. Such renunciation is a symptom of an unalloyed devotee engaged in the service of the Lord with no tinge of material contamination. According to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this is the position of Trinadapi Sunichina Turarapi Sishana, more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige. A pure devotee, freed from the reactions of the material modes of nature, executes devotional service with tolerance like that of a tree. He also feels humbler than the grass. Such a devotee, who is called niskinchana, or free from all material possessions, is always absorbed in emotional love of God, and he is reluctant to perform any kind of sense gratification. In other words, such a devotee is free from all material bondage, but he engages in Krishna conscious activities. Such expert devotional service is performed without hypocrisy. Humility, renunciation, and learned scholarship were combined in Sanatana Goswami, the ideal pure devotee, who was on the same level of understanding as Srila Ramananda Roy. Like Ramananda Roy, Sanatana Goswami was a fully cognizant expert in the conclusions of devotional service and was therefore able to describe such transcendental knowledge. Now remember, Ramananda Roy is Vishaka, Sanatana Goswami, and Rupa Goswami. They're Jiva souls. Of course, they're Manjari Gopis, but still they're Jiva souls. So that's quite a high praise for these particular individuals by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Raikai Shvara Tume Yecha Karite Kashtera Putale Tume Para Na Nachaite. Srila Ramananda Roy replied to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, "My Lord, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If you like, you can cause even a wooden doll to dance. Moramukeye Sabha Rasa Karila Pracharane Se Rasa Dekeye Hara Likane." I see that the truths regarding transcendental mellows that you expounded through my mouth are all explained in the writings of Srila Rupa Goswami. Bhakti kripa hetu prakashite cha vraja rasa yare karao se karibe jagat tomara pasha. Because of your causeless mercy toward your devotees, you want to describe the transcendental pastimes of Vrindavan. Anyone empowered to do this can bring the entire world under your influence. And of course, that's Prabhupada too. This passage parallels the statement, Krishna Shakti Vinanahi Hari Pravartana. That means, actually, I'm not going to translate because Prabhupada translates it here, which means that unless empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, one cannot spread the holy name of the Lord throughout the entire world. Caitanya Caritamrta, Antya Lila 7:11. Under the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, a pure devotee can preach the holy name of the Lord so that everyone may take advantage of this facility and thus become Krishna conscious. Tabi Mahaprabhu Kaila Rupe Alingana Tanre Lakaraila Sabara Chadanai Vandana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then embraced Rupa Goswami and asked him to offer prayers at the lotus feet of all the devotees present. Advaita Nichanandari Sabhavakta Gana Kripakari Rupe Sabe Kaila Lingana. Advaita Acharya, Nityananda Prabhu, and all the other devotees showed their causeless mercy to Rupa Goswami by embracing him in return. Prabhu Kripa Rupayara Rupera Sadguna Deki Chamatkara Haila Sabhakara Mana. Seeing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's special mercy toward Srila Rupa Goswami and seeing his personal qualities, all the devotees were struck with wonder. Tabi Mahaprabhu Sabhabhakta Lana Gila Harirasa Thakura Rupe Alingana Kaila. Then, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left with all of his devotees, Haridas Thakur also embraced Srila Rupa Goswami. Haridasa Kahi Tumara Bhagyera Nahi Singma Ye Sava Varnena Ehara Ke Jane Makima. Haridas Thakur told him, there's no limit to your good fortune. No one can describe the glories of what you have described. Shri Rupa Kahena Ami Kitchuna Jani Ye Mahaprabhu Kahana Se Kahi Bani. Shri Rupa Goswami said, I do not know anything. The only transcendental words I can utter are those which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu makes me speak. So Prabhupada says, the poet or writer dealing with transcendental subject matters is not an ordinary writer or a translator, because he is empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whatever he writes becomes effective. The principle of being empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead is essential. A materialistic poet who describes in his poetry the material activities of men and women cannot describe the transcendental pastimes of the Lord or the transcendental conclusions of devotional service. Srila Sanatana Goswami has therefore warned all neophyte devotees that one should not hear from the mouth of a non-Vaishnava. Another famous verse. Vaishnava Mukhodgirnam Putam Harikatam Tam Shravanam Naiva Kartavyam Sharpo Chistiyatapaya. Padma Purana. One should not hear anything about Krishna from a non-Vaishnava. Milk touched by the lips of a serpent has poisonous effects. Similarly, talks about Krishna given by a non-Vaishnava are also poisonous. And sometimes you got these non-Vaishnavas who even are coming from Vrindavan, and they are impersonalists or voidists. It's poisonous to hear from them. Unless one is a fully unalloyed devotee of the Lord, one should not try to describe the pastimes of Krishna in poetry, for it will be only mundane. There are many descriptions of Krishna's Bhagavad Gita written by persons whose consciousness is mundane, who are not qualified by pure devotion. Although they attempted to write transcendental literature, they could not fully engage even a single devotee in Krishna's service. Such literature is mundane and therefore is warned by Sri Sanatana Goswami. One should not touch it. Vidiyasya preyaranaya pravartitoham varakarupopi tasya hari padakamalam vande chaitanya devasya. Although I am the lowest of men and have no knowledge, the Lord has mercifully bestowed upon me the inspiration to write transcendental literature about devotional service. Therefore, I offer my obeisances at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who's given me a chance to write these books. This verse is from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 112. He Mata Dvijana Krishna Kata Range, Suke Kala Ganaya Rupa Haridasa Sange. In this way, Srila Rupa Goswami passed his time in close association with Haridas Thakur by discussing the pastimes of Lord Krishna in great happiness. Charimasa Rai Sabha Prabhupada Bhakta Gana Goshani Vidaya Dila Gode Karila Gamana. All the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thus spent 4 months with him. Then the Lord bade them farewell, and they returned to Bengal. Shri Rupa Prabhu Pade Nilachale Rahila Dole Yatra Prabhu Sange Anande Dekila. Srila Rupa Goswami, however, stayed at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and when the Dola Yatra festival took place, he saw it in great happiness with the Lord. Dola Anantare Prabhu Rupe Vidaya Dila Aneka Prasada Kari Shakti Shancharila. After the Dola Yatra festival ended, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bade farewell to Rupa Goswami also. The Lord empowered him and bestowed upon him all kinds of mercy. And of course, Rupa Goswami went to Vrindavan. Vrindavane yaha tumi rakiha Vrindavane ekabarayan pathaya sanatane. Now go to Vrindavan and stay there, the Lord said. You may send here your elder brother Sanatan. Brajayaya rasa shastra kariyaha nirupana lupta tirtha sabatan kariha pracharana. No, this is not in Prayag. This is actually in Jagannath Puri. No, what we're hearing described here, there's someone put in the chat window. This is the second time Rupa Goswami met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Prayag. No, this is in Jagannath Puri. This is all happening. When you go to Vrindavan, stay there, preach transcendental literature, and excavate the lost holy places. Krishna Seva Rasa Bhakti Kariyaha Prachara Amiha Dekitaitan Yaimueka Bara. Establish the service of Lord Krishna and preach the mellows of Lord Krishna's devotional service. I shall also go to Vrindavan once more. Now, of course, Lord Chaitanya didn't, but in his unmanifested form he did. Ekabali Prabhu Tanre Kaila Lingana Rupa Goswami Shiredare Prabhura Charana. Having thus spoken, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced Rupa Goswami, then placed the lotus feet of the Lord upon his head. Prabhura Bhaktagana Pashe Vidaya Lagila Punarapi Goda Pate Vrindavane Haila. Rupa Goswami took leave of the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and returned to Vrindavana by the path through Bengal. Eta Kahilana Punaruperan Milana Ihaye Shune Paya Chaitanya Charana. Thus I have described the second meaning of Rupa Goswami and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Anyone who hears of this incident will certainly attain shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it looks like we're ending the chapter. And then we'll take questions because I want to end a little early tonight. Shri Rupa Raghunatha Pariyarasha Chaitanya Charitamrta Kahi Krishna Das. Praying at the lotus feet of Shri Rupa and Shri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrta, following in their footsteps. And thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrta Antya Lila, first chapter describing the second meaning of Srila Rupa Goswami and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And tomorrow we'll start this very interesting story, which is entitled The Chastisement of Junya Haridas. Okay, Chastisement of Junya Haridas. Okay, let's stop sharing right now, and then we will unmute yourselves or allow you to unmute so you can ask some questions. And I'm going to end a little early, so you'll have to excuse me if I kick you off the air. Okay, Gopal, you have a question? So ask now. So my blessings. So what's up?
You spoke about Srila Ramananda Roy being Vishaka Devi. and in contrast, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami being Jiva souls, meaning that Srila Ramananda Roy is Shakti Tattva?
Yes, that's right.
But it's also described that he's an incarnation of Arjuna.
Yes, I mean, that's actually very interesting. He is considered an incarnation of Arjuna and of Vishaka. So the way I take it, he's empowered by Arjuna and a direct incarnation of Vishaka.
Thank you, Gurudev.
Okay, so next question. And if we don't have another question, then we can end early. Because I have a preaching program. That might be a good idea. Okay, anybody else have a question? Raise your hand or unmute yourself. Oh, Gora Hari. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. It's a little staticky.
Okay, sorry about that.
Oh, I can hear you. I can understand you. So what's the question?
Yes, my question is concerning the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I know that he came to preach the Sankirtan movie,
Yeah.
and I know that he danced a lot too. Was he always dancing? How was his attitude towards Sankirtan? I know that he's the incarnation for the Sankirtan movement in this era, but I like to find out what was his mood and while he was dancing and
Well,
his
his mood, his dancing was an ecstatic expression of love. It was like, whoops, I'm gonna have to mute you. His dancing was an ecstatic expression of love, just like the gopis' dancing was an ecstatic expression of love for Krishna. It's not like, when we dance, or I dance, whatever, or an ordinary person dances, they're enjoying the physical symptoms of dancing, the physical endorphins or whatever other things, adrenaline, endorphins, whatever. But when Lord Chaitanya danced, it was to give Krishna pleasure because he's in the mood of Radharani. And sometimes he danced, and sometimes he cried, and sometimes he rolled on the ground, and sometimes he beat his head on the ground, and sometimes he ran into the river. But the dancing is called an anubhava, just technically. Anubhava means that a voluntary expression of ecstasy. Anubhava, something that someone does when their emotions or their devotion is stimulated. So that's Lord Chaitanya's dancing. It's not just something mundane. Like we go, of course I don't go, but just like you may do the cha-cha or some other dance like that, because I don't do that. Or square dancing or something.
me neither. I prefer to do Sankirtan.
All right. Is there a reference that here this great devotee asked me the question, is there a reference that Jiva Goswami is Jiva Tattva? No. No, there's no reference. I mean, I can't say 100% for sure, but he's one of the Manjari gopis. He's Rupa Manjari. And so the Manjari gopis generally are Jiva Tattva. There may be some that are not, but generally they're Jiva Tattva. So, yeah, we have to find the reference. Actually, maybe someone in the meantime, before tomorrow's class, they can find the reference about Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. Good point. So, who else has a question? If there's no other questions, we can end early because I do have a preaching program. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we have a program tonight to visit some friends, Krishna conscious friends. All my friends are Krishna conscious. That's important. all our friends should be Krishna conscious. The story about Junior Haridas, that's in the next chapter. We will deal with what type of body he had when he chanted for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I mean, it's obviously not a normal ghost body, because a normal ghost body doesn't chant Hare Krishna. So there's some special dispensation for Junior Haridas when he was chanting for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But that's next chapter. That's chapter 2 in the Ancha Lila. Okay, so to allow me time to do my program tonight, we want to thank everyone for joining us, and tomorrow night, same time, same station, all glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. What is that? You spoke about seriously desiring empowerment, but we can't demand it. Yeah, we can. We can demand it by our actions, not by the words. Actions having good sadhana. If you have good sadhana, it's like sharpening a knife. If you don't sharpen a knife, after a while it gets dull. So you have to keep sharpening the knife. You have to keep sharpening your consciousness. Good sadhana, good chanting, hearing and reading. You have to keep it sharp. Or else, because by the nature of living in this world, the consciousness becomes dull and the empowerment becomes, minimized. Okay, on that happy note, see everybody tomorrow evening. All glories to Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. See you later.